All right. So we're back. We got episode 97, Convos in the Pedicab. We're doing something a little differently. I just filmed 96 with Kingsley and Aaron Edwards, the founders of Float, but you're going to see 97 before that because we're doing this live, and that's what's happening. All right, so I'm with my friend Kristan Harris, right? Kristan Harris?
Kristan Harris, Rundown Live, rundownlive.com, rundownlive.com.
You've done some pretty interesting stuff. You know, we met each other, we've kind of like seen each other around for a bit, right? Like we met each other at the World War III protest for Ukraine. And then we also happened to like be at the transgender pedophile rally by the Capitol. And that was also quite interesting. So you've been doing this for a while. So tell us about all that.
Yeah, so about me, I've been a reporter for about 10 to 12 years independently. Started out as a citizen journalist. Podcasting, and now I broadcast 5 days a week on KGRA and Band.video. If you guys want to catch the video, those are 2 places to catch it. Also, anywhere where podcasts are found, technically. But I've covered some crazy stuff. Most recently, I was at the Ghislaine Maxwell Trial for 5 weeks.
Oh, tell me about that.
Oh, it was very interesting. I was the only reporter to pull the stenographer verbatim testimonies by the victims and publish them on the rundownlive.com. Everyone else was taking their own handwritten notes and things like that. So I figured that it was a way to give back because we raised $6,000 to give the actual verbatim information because you can't record. You can only write things down and take notes unless you get and pay $1 per sheet.
Christian, what happened then? Like what's actually going on? Like well, you got some information that a lot of people don't have. Like what did you learn from doing that?
The grooming process. The grooming process by Ghislaine Maxwell would be that she would be there as a female role model for small girls that were slowly being groomed by Jeffrey Epstein, and she would be the one that would turncoat and teach them how to properly massage Jeffrey Epstein. But it would start out with finding and identifying a child who has a broken home, usually no father in the family, mother needs money, but has extreme talent. And then they would promise and send these girls to school, prominent music school, acting school, painting school, whatever it is that they were talented at, and slowly groom them by having them come to Jeffrey Epstein's home. The grooming process, as soon as they walked through the door, is that he had nude paintings, nude pictures, and then after a few months they'd be introduced to nude women in the pool, and before you know it, it'd be time to massage Jeffrey, and they'd slowly just start out with normal body massages, and then it would lead to more intimate massages for these underage girls who would come in and make $200-300 a massage.
And then they were also kind of making money pre-grooming so that they got used to the money. Right? So this way they're like, oh man, we're from a broken home, we're poor, we don't have anything. We kind of need this money, so they're less likely to say no and walk away from that.
Right, and obviously the parents in some of these cases knew. Some of the girls didn't have parents involved at all. And one of the girls is actually a famous Days of Our Lives star now, which is interesting. And we learned a lot in court. They literally redacted just about everything, and even when they could list names, the prosecution did not because they felt it wasn't warranted or would benefit at all. It had really no stipulations. But even the judge, Nathan, would say, you can say that name, right? And those names were people like Chris Tucker, Kevin Spacey, Bill Gates.
What about Bill Gates? So Chris Tucker, I had this comedian named Leonardo Joni who talked about Chris Tucker, and she said that like he went to the island once. And then after he came back from the island, he became like a super devout Christian. Literally right afterwards, and kind of like his career stagnated. He stopped doing movies. He like lost relevance, just became like super Christian, and that is an interesting analogy.
That's an interesting life change. Sometimes when you stare into the pits of hell and you realize if there's a hell, then there must be a heaven, right? And that might scare or make people make decisions of their life to be devout and turn into Christianity. It's funny how often Satanists turn Christian and Christians become atheists, and then atheists then again discover something supernatural, and then they buy into intelligent design. It was Sir Francis Bacon who said that a young philosopher dabbles in atheism, but a seasoned philosopher is religious.
I can see that. I can definitely see that. So I mean, there's Chris Tucker, there was Bill Gates, obviously, there was...
Donald Trump, there was, as well as Bill Clinton.
Well, we know about that, yeah.
Right. And there was astronauts, there were musicians, and there's plenty of names that were listed. I don't, just off the top of my head, without having the notes in front of me, there was a lot of obscure people that were important behind the scenes, doctors, like I said, astronauts, just people from all trades and walks of life.
Yeah, no, I can see that. Do you think that there were a lot of like heads of teachers unions and like heads of education departments and nonprofit heads that went to these islands? Because if there's any way to keep astroturfing establishment talking points, it's going to be through, and this I've really saw this through COVID, it's going to be through nonprofits and social justice movements is the best way to astroturf corporatism.
Yeah, when we talk about these things and the way we look at the whole idea of being able to blackmail or have initiation in some kind of elitist club by partaking in these rituals in order to solidify your place in the movement or role in the movement. It's not a really new ideology, but I think that it's very plausible. Bill and Melinda Gates, who were heavily responsible for lobbying both conservatives and liberals, because it was identified early on that Common Core curriculum was a branch of UN Agenda 21. Actually, Common Core curriculum came directly from the Council on Foreign Relations. And it's funny that I mentioned Council on Foreign Relations because you know what today is, right? Today's May Day, May 1st. It's the birthday of the Bavarian Illuminati. And Myron C. Fagan, the Jewish broadcaster, did a whole vinyl series. I have a copy of it on vinyl. It's wonderful. Called The Council on Foreign Relations and Illuminati, where he ties all the bloodlines from the original Bavarian sects into the organizations like the Council on Foreign Relations. From 1964 or 7. It's one of those two.
And that's interesting because every established politician goes to a CFR meeting before they even get selected to be the candidate.
Well, it's an invite thing. So again, it's a society. It's not. It's out in the open.
Was Donald Trump in the CFR in the Bilderberg, or because that does seem like an outlier?
I do not know. I do know that. Newt Gingrich was on Fox News saying that the reason why conservatives disliked him, it was because he did not get initiated within the rites of the Masonic lodges or the secret societies.
But you don't think Gingrich was involved with all that stuff?
Oh, he was. He's a 32nd, 33rd degree Mason, allegedly. There's a lot of people. That doesn't mean that people are necessarily nefarious or bad, but we knew that he was very involved in the swinger lifestyle, Newt Gingrich, amongst other things. So, the idea that there's kingmakers, that's very true. Lobbyism, look at Klaus Schwab. He's like, we own,
We penetrated all the cabinets.
Right. We own all these politicians. My question is could Elon Musk just start lobbying and buying? He's like, could Elon Musk buy Justin Trudeau? If people are just buying people, everyone has a price. Then at that point, that's corrupt.
Right, but the thing is that just because Elon Musk has more money on paper, I'm just
joking.
Right.
Joking,
I know. But it's like people think, oh, he's the richest man in the world. But just because you have more money on paper doesn't mean you're really the richest man in the world, right? Because the richest man in the world is the one who's able to get banks and central governments to print unlimited amounts of money in order to fund what they want to do. So you look at BlackRock basically buying single family homes left and right, and they can outbid anybody because they just get unlimited money from the Treasury Department.
Right.
Elon Musk, eventually $44 billion runs out. The U.S. Treasury can just keep printing more money to give to people to continue doing what they want to do with no consequences.
Yeah, right. The banking system has the ability to give loans to whoever they want, whenever they want. The Federal Reserve, but again, that's the big banker money made through corruption and if you ever read a book from 1911, it's called Philip Drew Administrator. It's written by Colonel Mandelhouse, right-hand man of Jacob Schiff, and it's basically a roadmap to the world we thought establishment of a Federal Reserve, needing of wars to have establishment of a United Nation, amongst other things. It's a very interesting book, worth reading. Jacob Schiff was the guy who ran the Western banking dynasty for the Rothschilds, and just to tie it all together.
So do you ever notice how movements of extreme nationalism ultimately lead to organizations of extreme globalism as a byproduct?
I mean, they can.
Well, that's what's been happening throughout history.
Yeah, it has. There's no doubt about that.
Like, look at World War One.
Right.
You had a bunch of countries that had alliances with each other. There was like the Triple Alliance, Triple Entente for like 30, 40 years, and there's a lot of tension throughout Europe during this time period, right? And then the Archduke got shot, and then you had a war that took place. And then after that happened, because of the damage that was caused by it, you created a League of Nations that formed in the early 1920s.
Well, they got shut down because Russia didn't want to have their hand in it.
But they still tried to do that.
Right.
Okay.
And that's why they hate Russia in part so bad, the bankers. Anyways.
But they tried to do that, okay?
Right.
And then you had hyperinflation, right, in Weimar Germany. And then you had Adolf Hitler that came about as a result of hyperinflation and bad monetary policy and basically anarcho-tyranny was taking place in Germany. Right?
Yeah.
So like a better words, there's an anarcho-tyranny was happening in Germany with all the wheelbarrows full of money. It was like similar to like Venezuela, but it was a very similar trajectory, right? And so you get Hitler, and then you have different similar movements took place in Italy. You had Japan was becoming very invasive, and Japan, Italy, Germany, they formed an alliance, right? The Axis.
Right.
Then they get defeated, and you get World War II as a result of this. And what happens after World War II? The United Nations got created as a result of World War II, and you started this path towards globalism as a result of everything that happened.
Well,
and now
Hitler had a book called New World Order.
What? Oh, tell me. Okay.
I didn't read it, but I do know it exists, and basically it was a roadmap. It was believed, and many people have talked about this, that when Adolf Hitler, they said he was part Jewish, his great grandmother got pregnant by Nathaniel Rothschild and paid somebody to be a suitable husband, and that's why he was able to rise in part to power, because he was direct bloodlines with the Rothschild. So when they say he was Jewish bloodline, it's actually banker Rothschild, part Jew.
So one of the Rothschilds had an illegitimate kid with Adolf Hitler. That's
not Adolf Hitler, but with his great grandmother. She was 15, and it would have looked bad. And so the story is that they found Adolf Hitler's great grandfather to marry her in order to make it not look like it was a bad situation. So when they said in history that he was Jewish, it was believed that was the relation, that he was actually Rothschild, and that's why you have the New World Order push and the deniable plausibility and everything else that's built in there.
That's pretty far-reaching, though.
Yeah, that is.
That's extremely far. That is extremely far-reaching.
Yeah.
What I think happened is that you just had a guy who was the realistic theory on this is that he's a failed art student, and he couldn't get into art school, and there were a bunch of Jewish people that were better at art than him and more talented. And you also had bankers in the Weimar Germany that were issuing out money.
Sure.
As a result of this, and generally speaking, throughout history, it's been a Jewish-dominated field, and so it just became easy to blame Jews because a lot of bankers happened to be Jewish, and hyperinflation was a result of catastrophic banking policy, and so you created a very easy scapegoat as a result of that.
Right.
That's what I think happened.
I think it's a collaboration of all.
That's what I think happened, and it was an easy scapegoat, and people were mad when you're under extreme amounts of financial stress. When there's a tremendous amount of social unrest, you lose IQ points. You're a lot more likely to fall for stuff like that, and I think that is probably why all of that took place. And then you had a lot of then you had a lot of like oligarchs. You had a lot of these.
It was the divide and conquer tactic because they needed to split the people in order to weaken them.
Yeah.
That's kind of how they do
exactly.
it.
But you also had like a lot of rich American oligarchs who gave insane amounts of money to Hitler.
Well,
Henry Ford,
Bush family.
Prescott Bush laundered money through them. John D. Rockefeller sold fuel for the Germans to do the bombing. We also, it could have been Rockefeller or somebody else. It could have also been Rockefeller, but he sold Zyklon B. That the same Zyklon B was that was used in the German gas chambers, right? So a lot of American mega billionaires, the equivalent of what they would be now, right, funded World War II with no accountability. And then we brought in a bunch of actual Nazis to run our intelligence departments right afterwards.
Henry Kissinger, Project Paperclip.
Yeah, Operation Paperclip.
Yeah,
right.
something that's kind of ties in that a lot of people don't talk about is the Smedley Butler situation with the Bonus Army March.
Oh, I know about that. But tell me.
Where basically Smedley Butler was approached by corporate Mongols and war Mongols and people with money trying to take soldiers into D.C. and overthrow it. And they offered him a lot of money, and he went on public television and blew the whistle on this. And the Bushes were involved in that back in the 30s. And he was leading armies to the Capitol because they wanted to be able to cash in their war bonds during the Great Depression for the time that they served.
Yeah,
they were allowing them to do this. So the corporate Mongols wanted to overthrow the government and install basically a puppet government like we do in other nations now,
And he blew the whistle.
Right.
And then now, when you look that up, it's called the business plan. They look at it like it's a conspiracy theory, but it actually
was legitimately.
He literally went and gave speeches saying this.
Every Marine knows the story. That's about it.
So that's insane. But
so these people have the tendency. What we're saying is we're building the case that these people have the tendency to do these kind of things. It isn't like we're trying to be fabricate things.
No, but okay. Before. And so right now we did a little history lesson, but right now, where are we right now? We're there's a global crisis that's taken place with Ukraine and with Russia.
Right.
Okay. So, and history doesn't repeat, but it does rhyme, and you're seeing a lot of rhyming patterns.
Right.
So what people are like, everyone's taking. There are some people that even take Putin's side for it. Right, and there's some people that are like wanting us to stand with Ukraine, and people are just thinking that it's just about going to war with Russia, but there's something way deeper, right? And what in my opinion is deeper is that you're having as a result of the way in which we are exacerbating conflict, we're creating like a bunch of and this is being done on a global level. A series of actions are being done on a global level to get countries to align themselves against the United States and against countries in Western Europe, similar to what the Axis were like in World War II. And this is being manifested in the fact that like Russia and China are forming a loose alliance, and Iran is also, and some of these Middle Eastern countries are also going to start being aligned with Russia, especially if the Russian ruble continues getting stronger. The United States, based on who we've installed in third world countries and XYZ, we don't have the best track record of inspiring goodwill as a result of our foreign policy. So you're going to see a lot of countries are going to look at this as an excuse to deviate from the dollar and not need dollar hegemony. So you can see something like that happen, and then you could also see other countries are going to wage a different kind of warfare than we've ever seen. It's not going to be a physical war. That'll be World War III, but you'll see like countries working together to destroy the U.S. supply chain and destroy our influence.
Well, that's definitely a type of warfare, and you put together some pretty interesting things there. First of all, with what's going on is in 2017, George Soros defined an open society at Davos as a global mafia state. And so what we have now is we have the open society, which Google says they're going to censor anyone that talks negative about the open society, which is a global mafia state, right on their website.
There's nothing wrong with a billionaire being in the face of social justice. Come on.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, what do you mean?
No, it's interesting. But, like, where we're going with this is Russia, Russia and Ukraine, neither of them are right. No one should support death and war.
No, none. And we talked about, when you asked me what was going on with that, and I basically said, I don't know enough about it, but I don't know why we're even involved.
Right. And now we know that there's been a lot of misinformation propaganda, but what you see is Russia and China, they don't want to be part of this open society mafia. They want their world order, their idea of the new world order to spread and be the dominant force. So what you're seeing is a power struggle before these big groups and power structures, and that's why some people are concerned that this new world order is going to fail, or it's beginning to fail, because there's so much infighting. Russia has their own idea. They don't want to be part of globalism. And yet at one time, a few years ago, Donald Trump didn't want to be part of this globalism. You want to know how he probably kept the peace for the most part during that area? Although that we did continue a lot of wars and do a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of stuff going on still during the Trump administration. He didn't start any new ones, and he was able to keep the peace with China and Russia. And I don't know, do you think that we would be in the situation right now if Trump was president?
No, I don't.
You don't think so?
I do not. I think we'd be in a whole series of different situations, and they would appear to be really bad because we wouldn't know an alternative.
Right. And,
we would have other problems.
Right, but this is what a honeypot. Essentially, the United States government castrated Ukraine over the last 30 years.
Actually, let me backtrack. I think we might actually still be in this situation, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because I think that Putin is doing this, right? And I think a reason why he's doing this is because he's sensing weakness throughout the rest of the globe in terms of the ability to actually stop him.
Right.
Okay? As a result of COVID, lockdown, civil unrest, inflation, everything, right? And also, and there's also there's also extreme lack of support for governments in general. You know what I mean? So because of everything that's happened during COVID, I don't care about Putin doing this. I don't give a shit about Ukraine, and a lot of people feel that way, right? And imagine being in Europe and you've been locked down for 2 years. You're gonna go fight a war in Ukraine after what happened. You're gonna believe the media. You're gonna risk it. You're gonna go fight and die for a bunch of ultra rich people that took away your chance to earn a living while they bought a bunch of stocks and assets at a discounted price. Hell no. And so, with that being said, a guy like Putin is a lot more likely to get away with whatever he wants to get away with. As a result, I think that's one factor, right? And I also think that, with that being said, let's say Trump got reelected. What do you think the dynamic of this country would be like if Trump won, or if Trump got reelected? What do you think it'd be?
I think that there'd still be buildings burning. There'd be a lot of social justice going on. We've seen a lot of police brutality go on, including somebody in Michigan get shot in the back of the head. And there's the question we should ask is, why is it not happening anymore when this president has been very draconian against civil rights movement, wouldn't even meet with BLM, and they put in all that time or work and effort to try to get him reelected. And he's given nothing back to the people. He's raised diabetes medication prices. He got back in the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which helped raise gas prices along with destroying the pipeline. There's just so many problems right now. I'm not saying that our interstate and our roads don't need remodeling and stuff like that, trying to find some good things that are positive. I mean, we're already so far in debt. I just don't see us ever getting out of this. We're just switching captains of the Titanic. So if Trump is elected, I think we'd have more division, right?
Yeah.
More than ever. I think that there would be more arrests, because what happened on January 6th is they used the justice system to go after their political adversaries. Keep in mind that there was no justification to lock down the Capitol Hill until they found the pipe bombs, and they still haven't even found the person who laid the pipe bombs down. They've arrested people who just walked into the building, did nothing, but they can't find the person that left the pipe bombs there, that justified themselves barricading themselves inside of there, which caused the windows to break and somebody to shoot Ashley Babbitt. And the question is why? The idea was that they were going to just occupy the building, like BLM does or Code Pink does, to prevent the vote and solidifying the election. And they could have just had the vote a different day, and there wouldn't have been millions of people there. Instead, they barricaded themselves in. And not only that, on Airtable, on New Year's Eve, I did an episode of The Rundown Live in 2020, and it was an Airtable page which had pictures of over 300, Proud Boys, Boogaloos, influencers, and it said these are the people to record on January 6th. When the FBI list came out, majority of the people that were on the FBI photo list were the same people that were on the Antifa Airtable website. So they definitely went in and then reported all the people and went through and basically did the FBI's job for them. They're like little mini FBI informants.
Well, that happens everywhere. I'm sure you probably had a bunch of extreme right-wingers that infiltrated BLM protests too. You
would think.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, so I think that stuff's just, you always get infiltration.
Andy No, and it happens. So.
You always have it. You always have infiltration. That'll always take place.
But they weaponize the agencies against their political enemies.
Of course, that's obvious. But what I'm trying to say to go full circle is that I think the civil unrest that would be taking place in this country, because of how it would be manufactured and because I think a lot less people would be waking up to what's going on, might be so bad that we'd be Putin would also see an opportunity to invade Ukraine, because we're going to be so at war with each other that we wouldn't be able to unify to help stop this, or there'd be no support as well. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? So there would just be I think that just the circumstances in general, I'm just giving a benefit of the doubt, could also lead it to be that we probably would still have these problems, that although gas prices would be cheaper, we would not have the fear of food shortages. They because people could still burn their food processing plants and do all this stuff just to spite someone like Trump. And it's not like he demonstrated strong leadership in any capacity during 2020 to actually preserve our real freedoms. So I mean, who the hell knows, honestly, what would happen?
We just don't really know. And here's the deal. We're just switching captains at Titanic. The place you can implement the most change is in your local community, at your local school board meetings, at your local community meetings, getting involved, getting your kids out of school. In these like that's probably the best thing you can do with the way the education is going. Like, look at the way futurism is going. So what do we know? Today's May 1st, right? Illuminati Day. You know, the day the Bavarian Illuminati was created. And I know it's funny and it's interesting. But what were their main goals? It was the abolition of private property. And what is Klaus Schwab talking about?
Oh, nothing, be happy. And then they kept talking about how private property was not a thing. Even during BLM, even BLM was destroying things. People said that you don't need to own private property, and these news pundits went off and said that.
Yep, destruction
while they own
of property.
like 4 houses, they're telling you that. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So you won't own anything. Destruction of the family. What are we saying with Common Core curriculum and critical race theory? The parents are no longer involved in the education.
Well, it's the gender ideology is what's also doing that too.
Oh yeah. And the parents are wrong. They don't know what they're talking about. So they're pinning the children against the family. Mom and dad have to work full-time jobs now. So
inflation does that too.
Yep. Families being destroyed. Establishment of one world government, a new world order.
Hey, where do you live, man?
I'm in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Okay, so how often do you come to Austin?
Not very, but this is my second time this month.
You need to come to an Austin school board meeting with me.
Oh, I would love that.
I went to one for the first time. And so you want to talk about another thing that disenfranchises parents, and it's that the public comment is like you have to wait like 2 hours at these meetings before you can even speak publicly. And when it comes to public testimony on agenda items, the people that call in get to speak first. So the people that actually showed up to speak in person have to wait even longer. So it's like it's almost like a giant slap in the face to parents or people that actually do want to testify and do want to speak. Why can't the people who called in on the phone just speak afterwards? Like even the city council has decency to like let the people who showed up in person speak first.
Yeah, I identify as trans financial. I should have been born rich.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go in there and say that I need UBI, but I need a UBI of a rich person since they can just print unlimited money,
Why don't you come? They're going to actually talk about UBI on May 5th at City Hall. You should come if you're still in the area.
Yeah, if I'm still in the area, I'll try to make it out. I'm not quite sure. Right now I'm focused on getting out of here by May 3rd, but if I am in the area, I would love to do that. That'd be pretty awesome.
So you've covered some pretty crazy things. You covered the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, or not the trial, but the protest. Like,
I covered the trial too, and I was a witness in the trial.
Yeah, I want to hear this shit.
Sure,
I want to hear it. Yeah.
It was August 23rd, and I got a message from one of my colleagues from Wisconsin that is part of our rundown family, and he said, check this out. And it was African-American man being shot 7 times in the back, and all I saw was the video of him going in his car, opening the door, and then being shot like everyone else.
Yeah.
And so I grabbed my camera and I had to head down to Kenosha immediately. And when I got there, it wasn't entirely terrible as far as locals. There was probably about 35 locals. They were yelling at the cops. Cops were trying to investigate the crime scene. They made a circle around the vehicle where the incident happened, where Jacob Blake was shot. And then all of a sudden, I interviewed a few people, and then I looked, and the crowd quadrupled in size. All of a sudden, it was 250 people. And I'm looking on my stream, and I had, 1,200, all of a sudden 1,800, 2,000 people on the stream watching me on Facebook. And I'm going around, and before you know it, people were getting upset. There was a squad car there, and locals were jumping on them, throwing bricks through the squad car. In fact, one law enforcement officer, she went into the vehicle to move it, and that's when they threw a brick through the window, and I think she was trying to secure the gun that was probably in the vehicle at the same time. And then she got out, and another officer came over to try to help her because things were getting violent, and he got knocked out by a brick. And it just so happened that I had my camera pointed right at him, and I was looking in a different angle. I was looking at somebody else when I was filming in that direction, and I caught it on camera. And I asked the guy next to me, I go, what did I just miss? What just happened? He goes, oh, he just got bricked. He just got bricked. And it was wild because when I left there, my co-host said, bro, the Rundown Live is viral. And I said, what do you mean? Antifa and cop block people and anti-police people shared the video of the law enforcement getting knocked out by a brick, and there was over 750,000 views in less than 30 minutes. It was wild, and I was getting phone calls from media and other people to ask to use the footage. And I woke up the next morning and it was everywhere in the news, and the president of the United States referred to it. It blows my mind that somebody just like you or me could grab our camera and go impact and bring raw data so people could see exactly what happened. And the president, I don't care if it was Barack Obama or Biden or Trump, the president of the United States saw that footage. And I shouldn't be so awestruck about it, but it just...
No, you have every right to. You're a regular person with a camera.
Yeah.
And you got the president's attention. Like, that is one of the most amazing things about living in this country.
Right, and so that was the first day. I went home and I couldn't sleep at all. I got no sleep. CNN was blowing me up. Multiple licensing companies were blowing me up to try to get the exclusive rights to license at WGN. CNN was the first to contact me, and the lady that talked to me at CNN was actually very genuine, very nice. Wasn't a bad experience, but like many people have expressed. But Vox, all these individuals reached out to me, and I told everyone I'm not doing any interviews until I know exactly all the facts, because I don't want to be responsible for misinformation. So that by the next day, I headed out to day 2. It was Monday, and it didn't seem like as big of a protest. There was probably about 130, 140 people protesting, and at 10 o'clock it seemed to dissipate, and all of a sudden I heard chanting, and I looked around the corner by the Kenosha courthouse. I have video of this on YouTube, and over 4,000 protesters came walking with shields and broken bats and broken legs of table, anything they could use as a weapon. It was like something that I saw out of Ecuador, Argentina or something, where they all had their football helmets on to compete, and frozen water bottles. And then it was like a urban warfare. They had slingshots with cherry bombs on them, M80s, industrial grade fireworks. At one point, they would all launch frozen water bottles at the law enforcement at the same time. You know how you see those old medieval movies where the arrows black out the sun?
Yeah.
It was like that, but with ice bottles, and these cops are getting hammered. I saw them take at least 2 police officers and drag them from the front line because industrial grade fireworks went off right in front of them. And so all of a sudden the MRAPs came out, tear gassed, and they dispersed everyone, and they went down, they torched the city, burnt down a church, and they burnt everything down but a gas station, because a few armed citizens were asked to stand in front of it from the minority.
And imagine if you burned down the gas station, you'd cause a huge fire.
Right. That's a kaboom.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Right.
Wasn't Joseph Rosenbaum trying to push gasoline? A gas pet, like gasoline in a wheelbarrow or something,
That was on Tuesday.
No, he was lighting a trash. No, he had a trash can that was being lit on fire, and he was trying to push an on fire trash can into a gas station.
And in the video, it's funny because that video is viral. You can hear me, push that right towards a gas station, you idiot. Because people aren't thinking, and he wanted to go to jail. That was the next day. So I'll make this quick.
No, please just keep going.
Okay.
I want you to actually share this. This is fascinating.
So while they're destroying the city and the church, C.J. Halliburton, somebody who I a lot of us people that were there, we share our stories with each other because there's a little PTSD with all the stuff that we went through.
Yeah, of course.
There. And C.J. Halliburton, put out a fire that would have burned down a church. Corey Elijah was there. There's people out there just trying to impact and bring raw data, and there's all these different views. But a light pole got pushed down, and it knocked one of the kids out, and he was shaking. And I got video of them trying to have first response and trying to take care of this girl that night. And things got real wild and out of hand that night, and I couldn't sleep at all that night. So it was crazy because I was still dealing with all the incredible amount of tweets. I was getting thousands of tweets, and people were questioning me and asking me questions, and it was just impossible for me to go to sleep because of all the attention that was coming that way.
But dude, if you tried to pull out one of these fires, you're putting your safety at risk.
Yeah, I think C.J. Halliburton did that, and he put his safety at risk. And a lot of people have different opinions of different people that were there, but I was there, and the whole time I tried to prevent as much chaos as I can. So this brings us to the next day, which is August 23rd. August 23rd, I'm on Facebook, and I see a message saying recruiting armed citizens to protect local businesses in Kenosha to prevent buildings from being burnt down a third day. Yeah. And and they linked a video that showed the armed citizens from the gas station the night before that was going viral, and I wrote a news article about it on the Rundown Live saying local locals recruit armed citizens due to law enforcement not protecting private property, because law enforcement was only protecting the federal buildings, not the people's homes, not the people's businesses. And so basically it was wild because the next day, so I wrote an article, and before I knew it, was getting aggregated everywhere, and it got picked up by the InfoWars, Alex Jones, and this is probably 2 hours before the event started. And so I saw that there's a militia group. They were meeting people. They said meet at 8 o'clock. And I thought this could be a different story. I got 2 days of chaos, of cherry bombs, industrial grade fireworks, MRAPs, cops shooting rubber bullets, drones, pepper balls, pepper spray, tear gas. I was done. I was like, I need a different story. So this sounded like a different story to me. And so I was sitting, and I went there at 8 o'clock, and they weren't there. I thought, okay, maybe there's no armed citizens today. And so I went to the courthouse and I started covering what was going on there. And then that's when Ryan Balch came by. He was one of the people that was involved with the armed militia, or the armed citizens, we'll call them, because they're not ad hoc militia. They weren't really a militia. But armed citizens. And he was interacting, I believe, with, who was it? Gage Grosskreutz.
Oh, wow. Okay.
This is before anything was going well. And he was trying to separate Balch from another individual from getting into a fight because Balch had his gun, which he was right by the school. So keep in mind, it's probably illegal for him to have that gun there.
Yeah, because he's a felon. Yeah.
So Balch, not Grosskreutz. Grosskreutz too, but neither of them should have legally had him there. And so, anyways, I asked him, well, I heard there's armed citizens here. And he goes, yeah, we're on the other side of the school. So I walked over there, and that's when I got introduced to Kyle Rittenhouse. And he said, hi, I'm Kyle. I can be a medic and everything else. The video was used to identify him after the shooting.
That was you. Okay, wow.
I was one of three people. I think one of two people or one of three people. But I got text messages that, like, the video was going viral already.
Holy shit. All right.
So I started talking to him, and he seemed like a kid who was just eager to be there. And at one point, the armed citizens, Ryan Balch came out and he said, well, law enforcement just stopped by, and they said that they're going to send them down this way so we can deal with them. So get in position. I said, get in position. I said, I've covered over 100 protests.
Wait, back up. The cops sent the rioters to the armed citizens so they can get shot?
Well, so they can deal with them, whatever that means.
Yeah, so basically the cops abdicated their responsibility
to the armed citizens.
Yeah, that's insane.
This came out in the trial too, and I blew the whistle on this right away.
I want to just repeat that statement. The police officers.
There was a female police officer that pulled up in a squad car and told them that we're setting them down your way so you guys can deal with them, and that's why I believe they constantly pushed them towards them, then let them come back and pushed them towards them and let them come back. I don't know for sure the intent, the reasoning, but this is verbatim. I even have it on video, them having this conversation. I said, why are you getting in positions? Like, no one's going to bother you if you just sit by your building and just protect your property. If you engage, you're asking for trouble, right? Yeah. You look like you're trouble. It's not like you have security shirts on. You look like you're ready for war. And I get that. That's the way they came down. They wanted to be safe and all that other stuff. But so what happened is finally at one point, the armed citizens on top of car lot 2 were flickering their laser light sights on the protesters. And the protesters, they had laser pointers too to try to take out the drones, because they light fireworks into the sky to blind the drones whenever crimes would be committed, so that it wouldn't capture it, I think is their idea. Okay. So they would let off industrial grade fireworks in the sky at them or whatever. Anyways, they started pointing those laser pointers back at them. Now keep in mind, those guys on the roof had guns. So when you're pointing a laser sight on the BLM protesters marching down the road, they're taking that as threatening. So all of a sudden they got upset. They grabbed the dumpster. They set it on fire. And Kyle Rittenhouse was trying to pull the dumpster off the street. And I said, listen, protect your property. Don't patrol the streets. You're not, stay on your property, protect your property. They're in the street already. They took the dumpster, big deal. You're going to engage in cause more problems. You're here to protect the property. It's a dumpster, and I kind of scolded him.
Wait, you said it to Kyle, right?
Yeah.
Because he was trying to protect the dumpster?
He was trying to pull the dumpster off the street, and he was engaging people as well as Ryan Balch and other people.
What was Kyle Rittenhouse doing?
He wasn't doing anything negative. He wasn't doing anything bad. He was just trying to move the dumpster off the street.
Well, that's not bad. That's what you should do, right?
Well, the protesters were setting it on fire and trying to push it down the road. So
Okay.
And so there was an interaction where one of the armed citizens, that he was just shouldn't have been there. And I'm just giving the honest story.
Okay.
I mean, if you want the story, this is it. And he was twitching. His eyes were twitching. And I looked at Bolsh, who seemed like to be the leader at that point, and I said, this guy shouldn't even be here. He's trigger happy. Get him out of here. Switch him out. I don't know what. And Bolsh said, I know he shouldn't be here. And he was like, he's the guy who said, fuck around and find out. And they tried to use that in the trial to say that they were going to open fire on all the BLM supporters, which wasn't true.
Wait, Kyle said fuck around and find out?
No, Bolsh. Not Bolsh. Additional guy. I don't know his name. He was. He had a red beard. He was there. We have it on video. I came out in court. That was one of the reasons they had me testify. Because they wanted me to lead me into saying, yeah, he was going to open up fire on. That's what that means. But I didn't say it. That isn't what I heard. Yeah. He just said fuck around, find out. For all I know, that means he's going to punch someone or whatever. You know.
You don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. So don't put words in my mouth. So when I took the witness stand, they had. We'll get into that in a moment. But let's finish up the story of that night. So things got wild, and Kyle pulled the dumpster back and put it back on the property after they put out the fire. And this is the first time, because there's another dumpster, the one you're talking about. This is a different scenario. This is right from the car lot. They started throwing bottles of ammonium and bleach on the roof at the armed citizens.
Yeah.
And they said it's ammonium and bleach, and they said they said let's burn this place down, burn this fucking place down. And then somebody said fuck this. He said they got another car lot. Let's go down to the next lot. And I believe that's why they ended up. Kyle Rittenhouse's friend ended up calling him, telling him to go check out the next lot. But in that moment, all of a sudden, when things were getting intense, the MRAPs came and pushed the protesters past the armed citizens, and then they stopped and they asked them if they would like bottles of water, and I filmed them giving out bottles of water while they were tear gassing everyone back towards the gas station. And at that point, that's when everyone was gathering again towards the gas station, and that's where you have the Rosenbaum lighting the gas station on fire, saying, "Hey, shoot me N-word, shoot me N-word." Yeah. All that other crazy stuff. And there's videos and pictures and testimonies of him saying he wanted to go back to jail. He was homeless. He got let out of a psych ward that day. It was like Arkham Asylum, leave out the crazies so they could burn down the city.
Yeah, and then people call him a racial justice advocate.
Well, right, and he molested children.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like he was there just because he wanted to cause chaos.
Right.
He had no interest in any kind of social justice in any capacity.
None whatsoever. And so things got a little wild, and at that point, Bolsh and Rittenhouse got separated because they were by the gas station. And Rittenhouse got a call, and he went down to the third gas station. That's where he ended up shooting. Zelensky was running behind Rosenbaum, and he shot his gun in the air, and Kyle turned around, and that's when Rosenbaum made the leap for the gun, and Kyle shot him. And
so Rosenbaum was trying to light a garbage can on fire by a gas station, wheeling a inflamed garbage can towards a gas station.
Right.
Which would have not been good.
Right.
That would have been really bad. All right. And Kyle tried to put out the fire.
He did put out the fire, actually.
So he successfully put out the fire, potentially saving a ton of people. Okay?
Yeah.
And then Rosenbaum chased after Kyle as a result of that.
Because he told him if he ever gets him alone, I think he's going to gut him or something along those lines. But he told him that by the car lot. This was where my footage came in very key. So at the car lot, there was no video footage of Rosenbaum even being there. And so the prosecution brought me to the side and asked me, well, you got the most footage. You were around Kyle most that night. You had the most extensive coverage of the armed citizen. If there's any video of Rosenbaum at that location where he could have even threatened Kyle, you would have it. So I'll watch it, and then we'll talk on Monday. And so I watched my video, which was not available in high quality because I don't have a blue check mark. I can't download my videos in 1080p, right?
Yeah.
It's 480p, which sucks. It's pixelated. But I went through my footage time and time again, and I didn't see Kyle Rittenhouse, right? So I went up there, I testified, and he's like, anywhere in your footage, do you see Kyle Rittenhouse News Live too? And I said no, because I honestly believed I didn't have it. And so he said, therefore, Kyle Rittenhouse, there's no proof he was there, that those threats happened, Kyle, no reason to shoot him. And so the closing testimony by the defense, right? The video they have is my video, and they stop it at a frame, and they had it in 1080p. And there's Joseph Rosenbaum with his chain sitting right in front of car lot 2. right where they claimed he would be threatening Kyle Rittenhouse, and that was the dagger of the closing argument of the defense. And it was pretty interesting to be involved.
So you're
in
a big
that.
reason why that kid is free to live his life.
I don't know if that's true, but I do know I was there and I documented stuff and I had a lot of interaction. And I don't think Kyle Rittenhouse was a bad kid. You know, I think he makes he made bad decisions. Like, he shouldn't have been there. But like,
I mean, do you think so though? Like, let's backtrack a second, right? Like, he stopped a garbage can. He put out a trash fire near a gas station. It's not a bad decision.
would you want your 17-year-old?
Fuck no. Fuck no.
Okay, now you understand what I'm saying.
Okay, no. But I mean, like, you're in that environment through a situation that you can't control because big tech and big media are colluding to astroturf a political agenda, and they don't care about the casualties involved as a result of that. And they're manipulating algorithms to get people to create outrage in order to make this happen, right? It's war propaganda.
Right.
Similar to what's being used in Ukraine.
Yeah.
It's war propaganda, all right? It's just war amongst our own people, okay? And then you have city officials that are stopping police from being able to do their job.
Right.
Which could be another reason why they directed the people to the militias, because the cops, their hands are tied. They're not allowed to do anything. They could go to jail, lose their job, have a whole bunch of stuff happen to them. But if a militia guy does something, they just it's a cowardly way to absolve themselves of responsibility.
Right.
So there's that. And then you have a kid who saw what was going on, and you're a 16-year-old kid, and you see this horrible stuff happening, and you want to do the right thing. And you also see people who've gotten beaten nearly to death trying to do the right thing by groups of guys that are bigger and stronger than them. And so you bring a gun with you to protect yourself, because it's not like Kyle Rittenhouse was like a great fighter or anything like that. He was a kid.
Right.
Apparently he was really well disciplined with the trigger and stuff.
Well, he wanted to be a cop. He was part of the little junior police programs.
Yeah, he was definitely really good at that. But like, what I'm saying though is that, like, you really just put out a fire and you brought tools with you to protect yourself, which obviously you needed to use considering what happened.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think he had the intent of hurting anyone.
Yeah.
Like, he was there, he wanted to be a medic. The thing I did get, he was a kid being eager to be there. Much like when we were kids, we would watch a cartoon maybe. Like, for me, it was like Ninja Turtles. We'd go out and fight with sticks in the yard.
Yeah.
Or we'd see our favorite football player, and we'd go outside and play football. Maybe, like, he was big in Call of Duty, he was big in the guns.
I can see that,
opportunity from to be part, like, this is what, fun. It was fun for him. So he wanted to partake. I don't think his intention was to ever hurt, shoot, or murder anyone. I don't think he went there for that reason whatsoever. I don't think any of those guys were down there to go, let's say, hunt BLM people per se.
No.
I think that they made poor decisions, which led to the climax, and nobody made good decisions that night. Law enforcement didn't make good decisions that night. Armed citizens didn't make good decisions that night. And, the protesters didn't make good decisions. Just because they're legal doesn't mean it's still a good decision.
Nobody in a war environment is, generally speaking, going to make a good decision.
Right.
Like, so. it's a extreme conflict environment. No one's like, let me rationally think about the best decision I can make. You know what I mean? So it's like,
yeah. So that night was a little like, at that point, when Kyle went out, the first shots were heard, and I started running towards the gunshots, and I'm running down Sheridan, and all of a sudden I see these light flash right in front of me about, I would say somewhere about 15 to 30 yards. And then all of a sudden I see a couple more shots right in front of me, and I stopped, and I'm like, boy, I'm putting myself in harm's way purposely by running after these gunshots. And I'm like, I have family that I should care about, and people care about me. It's kind of like, I think it would be selfish to put myself in a position where people that love me, I put myself in danger and people that love me could lose me forever. And if knowingly, it's one thing to be there and get the footage, but it's another thing to purposely put yourself in, harm's way to get footage. And so I after the second shooting, I pulled around and I found a corner for the second and the third shooting happened. And then I happened to catch Kyle in the video, and I didn't know for sure if he was the person because there was other things that were going on. So there was multiple, probably about 7 to 12 gunshots that were unaccounted for that night.
Just in general?
In general. And what happened is I interviewed 7 people after all that, and I got 7 different stories. I got that white boy shot that white boy. I got a van opened up fire into the crowd, and there was people with industrial grade fireworks. So I don't know if they were throwing fireworks or if they were gunshots, but the police were looking for people after they nabbed Huber and Grosskreutz and towed him away in the MRAP. They were looking and going up and down roads, still looking for other people with guns that they believed had guns. And they know that there's more than the shots that they claimed were allotted. There was at least seven additional gunfire shots. We don't know. There were no casings for them, no additional casings found, amongst many other things. So it was kind of crazy because I went there to go cover the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. I didn't get subpoenaed, which I thought I might, because I got a visit by the lawyers, and they said that most likely I would be part of the trial, but I didn't get an initial subpoena, and I was there on Wednesday, the third day, and they started using my footage predominantly, and they said they wouldn't allow them to narrate, that they'd have to subpoena me, and it happened I was 3 rows back in court. So
holy fuck, that's insane.
Definitely crazy.
That is crazy shit. I'm like speechless from this. But
thanks for the interview.
There's still more. There's more that I want to talk about. Like, probably gonna wrap up in like maybe 15 minutes or so because I'm kind of hungry.
Whatever, man.
So this, fuck. Okay, so people thought he was trigger happy. Like, what were the vibes he was giving off when he was there, pre all that?
Well, I mean, he gave off a vibe like he was there to engage, but not violently.
Okay.
That he was there to help people, like be the medic. I think he believed that his gun was there, it was his tool, there to protect himself. Obviously the courts have shown that what he did was not illegal, and I think that he should go after media outlets for slander.
He definitely should, and I hope he makes a ton of money.
I don't think he'll make a ton of money. I think he'll make money, and I think he'll be able to.
I think he'll make more money than Nick Sandmann will because of what happened.
Yeah, we don't even know how much he made.
He made $200 million.
Well, how much of that was lawyer costs, and how much was this and that?
And but they paid him. He got paid that.
Yeah, I don't know if he got paid that.
Well, that's what they agreed in the settlement, right? So I think they will agree to a greater number because what happened to Kyle Rittenhouse is a lot worse and a lot more traumatic than what happened to that kid Nick Sandmann.
Right. And they said that he shot 3 African Americans. He said that he brought a gun over the state lines illegally. The gun was already in Wisconsin. They said that he couldn't have a gun, but he legally could because it was a long barrel. If he would have had a handgun, he would have been.
He would have gone to jail for having a handgun.
Yeah.
They all lied, and then they called them BLM activists. And at the very least, Rosenbaum was not a BLM activist.
No.
Maybe Huber was, and maybe Grosskreutz were. They were about that, even though they may have been like criminals and degenerates. They still probably did believe what they were believing.
They're heavily involved in the World Revolution, which stems again from the May 1st ideology we talked about earlier. World Revolution, the People's Revolution. These are all terms for communism. And, with Grosskreutz, it's interesting because he did some interesting thing in activism, even though he's a leftist. He created the whole medic movement in Milwaukee and really worked hard at having people there to, supply medical help. Whether if, like, I'd go to them, they would give me water or supply me. They were very unbiased. And that was interesting.
But they didn't know you were a right-leaning reporter, did they?
Milwaukee knows who I am. They know who the Rundown Live is. Our whole goal was to bring the left and right together. My co-host used to be an Occupy member, and I was part of the Ron Paul movement. So we would go to normal meetings. We would go to.
Oh, so people liked you. Nobody thought you were like a fascist or a bad guy or anything like that.
If anything, they prevented. It prevented me from actually being in danger. A lot of it. They all kind of understood that if they looked up, I was cop block. Law enforcement, police accountability, that kind of stuff. They all knew that I wasn't there nefariously, but I'm there to document. But there's a lot of people that came from out of state. There's people that came from, majority of the people that caused damage were from, Seattle, Chop, Chaz, Oregon. They all flew in. And from all over the state, when they marched down on Kenosha on Monday, majority of those people weren't even from Kenosha. It wasn't Kenoshans that burnt down their own city that were angry. It was people from outside of the city,
that got flown in, and you should really do an investigation to see who funded that and why did that funding occur.
Well, it's streamers. Yeah. So just like
no, but not everyone's a streamer though, dude. Like when
donations,
yeah.
Well, I know that travel, like George Soros has travel. He doesn't give direct money or payment, but what he does is he does it in support as like lawyers or free bus rides to rallies.
Well, what George, my thing is this, right? So people like George Soros and even Bezos, there was a filing where he gave like $600 million to a bunch of nonprofits, to a series of nonprofits, back in like the fall of 2020. And what these people do is it's not like you're like George Soros is in a castle plotting everything and just wiring money individually to protesters, right? But what happens is different progressive unions and organizations. A lot of them it's like a 501c3, so they'll get large sums of money and they don't have to disclose the finances. And so someone like George Soros can send tens, hundreds of millions of dollars to a series of organizations to help promote progressive causes, and then you're on the phone with the head of the organization saying, hey, this is what we would like for you to do. We'd like for you to send a whole group of people to really like act in solidarity with this movement. And then there's no organization aside from that, and then you just create violence.
So
does that make sense?
Yeah, no, completely. So there's an individual that knows this really well. I'm not really I've followed some of the money, and it's interesting because he was on Antifa's top 10 hate list. His name was Gabriel Brown, and he actually followed the money, and he knows who supplies money, where the money came from, where it goes. He was part of We Are Change. I don't remember, one of the old We Are Change organizations.
But We Are Change is not like a hate group, right?
No,
I don't even think those guys even get that much hate
Gabriel
from
Brown is an
like Luke
interesting
Rudkowski. Like I don't think that guy would get like attacked by Antifa or BLM.
I think he already has been.
Really?
Yeah.
But like maybe like maybe you got one or two instances, but like people like that, generally speaking, can go talk to a bunch of far leftists, and because they're like relatively respectful when they speak, they'll get both sides to talk.
Right.
Does that make sense? Like I've had like super far leftists come on Pedicab to talk to me, and they've been real cool every time I've talked to them.
Yeah, We Are Change is a decentralized organization. Each cell is different from each other too. You know, obviously with the home base of Luke Rudkowski doing We Are Change from years, and then there's We Are Change New York and We Are Change Colorado. And there was organizations decentralized that spawned all over the United States at one point. You know.
How's it going?
This is Angel, and I just wanted you guys to meet each other.
Cool. What's up, man? I'm Alex.
Hi, Alex.
All right.
No, at least I'm a 9-year-old.
He probably thinks your bike is awesome.
I know. Hey, I can give you a ride. I just want to finish wrapping something up real quick, if that's all right.
Oh yeah, he could give us a ride.
All right.
Look
Anyway,
at you
yeah,
with
I
the
know.
Look at
All right.
you, Alex.
So what were we talking about?
We were just talking about like following the money and where the money comes from in these groups, and being like precisely knowing, you know, how they're being used in the funds and distributed, and where, you know, how it really impacts. I mean, they have warehouses where they just train activists in Minneapolis and Michigan, or not Michigan, Minneapolis. And
But are they being trained to like throw bricks and do XYZ, or is it kind of like
this is how you protest? You know, like for example, January 6th, when I covered the Capitol protest, conservatives definitely didn't know how to protest. They were dissipated, and nobody really knew how to push back. And there's a way to protest in order to bring everyone together, and they're teaching people how to protest.
Okay, that makes sense too, because I was downtown when this kid Garrett Foster got shot, and I was like, I'm gonna bring the pedicab out because I'm bored and I want to talk to people and see what's going on. I didn't like make any money that day because it was like dead.
Yeah.
But I saw a protest, and I heard the gunshot, right, and you know, the people that I talked to were real cool with me, and they I had my Captain America mask on the whole time, and like I never had any problems with them at all, really. Like I got along with them. We talked and did a XYZ, even though they knew that I was like against all the COVID stuff and the measures and the masks, and like, you know, told them openly that Trump was a better choice than Biden to be president.
Right.
And I was like, well, this is why I feel this way. I understand why you disagree with me, but I really think that Biden is like a huge danger to the country.
He's stealing the king size candy bar versus the regular size.
Yeah. So that's kind of like I kind of explained why I felt this way. And so anyway, point being, I was there, and I was like trying to offer rides to like these people to get out, because there was a gunshots, right? And I was like, yo, you guys want to get out of here? If any of y'all want to leave, like, I'm happy to give you guys a ride so you can leave safely.
Free ride.
Right, free ride, you know, just so you can leave, right? And what happened was none of them took the ride, and when the cops came, they were like yelling at the cops, calling them pigs, cursing them out, doing XYZ. And they also told me that some guy came through a car and did like almost a drive-by on Garrett Foster and this and that. And I kind of believed them, because the reason I believed them is because the street was dead. It was like it was July and everything was closed, and it wasn't like there was any traffic at all. So if you really wanted to, you could just get around. This is a very easy protest to just get around.
Right.
You know, you could literally just back up and turn around and no one's going to follow you. So you were almost like, it almost felt like you're probably doing something on purpose because you're angry and you wanted to like start some trouble. Hey, I'm so sorry. I really want to finish this.
Do you have enough for just a couple flowers, or should we pay you with money?
You know, money would be nice. I appreciate the flowers, but maybe like, maybe I
Yeah. How much?
Don't worry about it. Let me finish this first, and then we'll do it. Okay. All right. Okay. What was I gonna say? So,
Captain America hates children.
Yeah, Captain America. Jesus Christ. So anyway, so they're basically like arguing with the cops, calling them pigs, doing this and that, right?
Sure.
And I did believe the story that like that guy just opened fire. Maybe he didn't like just start drive by busting caps, but like he definitely like could have easily avoided that situation. That was a very easily avoidable situation, right? And the people that I was talking to were not like, it didn't seem like they were like Soros affiliated. It just seemed like that like not every group of people protesting was a George Soros funded proxy group. Like a lot of those, there were a lot of like far leftists that just don't want police brutality and don't like corporatism, but they were just protesting differently.
I don't want police brutality.
Yeah, I don't either. Yeah. So it's I'm saying like they're just regular people like us that were just protesting, you know? And so I didn't think those were like bad kids that were like trying to like break things and destroy businesses. They weren't those people. They were just loud and they were protesting, right?
Right.
But when the cops did come, they like almost tried to antagonize the cops to get arrested. Yeah. And I think that's part of the movement and the strategy is to be as confrontational and as antagonistic as possible to try to get the police officer to do something violent towards you so that it makes news and headway in order to
create attention. It's marketing.
Yes, it's a marketing strategy. So that's kind of what I was trying to say.
Right. You know, it's interesting that you mentioned that. So there was a pro Second Amendment rally by Sheriff Clark in Kenosha about 3 years ago. And I went to go cover it, and some of the People's Revolution went there, and they tried to bullhorn Sheriff David Clark, and then a bunch of the female, because it was a female, some of the female activists started throwing down punches. And it was crazy, and it got a little wild, and essentially the law enforcement pushed the protesters back towards the courthouse, which later on was the site of the protests of Kyle Rittenhouse many months later. And it was interesting because they were yelling at the law enforcement, and the rally was over. Sheriff David Clark was already gone. They all left, and they were focusing on law enforcement. And I turned to Corey Elijah and I said, Corey, what do you see here? She goes, well, I see police officers and protesters yelling at each other. And I said, well, if the cops just left, who would they yell at? Nobody. And then the cops left almost immediately, like they're watching the stream, and all of a sudden all the protesters, they left at that area. You know, there's different ways to handle different things, because sometimes, like you mentioned, law enforcement being there will instigate being there too long will instigate some kind of
protest and riot.
Yeah.
And then sometimes the BLM guys, if there's an agenda, they want to instigate that.
Right. Well, you want, and the idea is if you can advertise it. Why do you think Facebook opened up all the algorithms? When I was in Kenosha, I was getting sometimes up near 12,000 viewers, 10,000 viewers on my live stream. I can't get that if I film anything else. When I was in Minneapolis, I had 20,000 at the George Floyd protest. Why is that? Why is that when we stream anything else? You know, is it just that people love violence, maybe? But
no, because they open up the algorithm. Like
right.
I was saying that too. That this whole George Floyd stuff, it was horrible what happened, and the guy should go to jail for the rest of his life for what he did.
Yeah.
But make no mistake about it, like these protests were definitely planned, and they opened up algorithms to get as many people to protest in whatever way they wanted, because there was an agenda for chaos to create a new regime, which they succeeded in. But that is what happened. And I was saying stuff like that right off the bat in the beginning. I'm like, yo, these protests are not about racial justice. Like, obviously we gotta help. Obviously there are racial problems that we have in America. Obviously there's a huge wealth gap that black people have to deal with. That's not their fault. Like, there's a lack of owning investable assets. There's a lack of financial literacy. There is an environment of poverty that black people have been forced to live in forever because of these financial situations that cause more police brutality. and then you have the music industry and entertainment that reinforces stereotypes that people either act in accordance with, or some cop that never grew up around black people believes those and acts differently towards black people. All that stuff happens, right? That should get fixed, should get changed. Like, there's no argument, right? But
how about prison mandates?
And prison mandates, yeah, and that, right? But nothing that was going on in this movement was really designed to represent anything, because nobody was coming up with solutions. Nobody was talking about like how to make things better, how to genuinely make things better. And you had big companies that were just manipulating algorithms to weaponize violence as a result of these concerns people were feeling that they had no plans of actually fixing. Just like you don't think that there are instances that are exactly identical to what George Floyd went through now that Biden's being president?
No, absolutely.
You don't think that's still going on?
Here, but the thing is
but it's not being shown anywhere. Yeah,
the response isn't the same because it's not being advertised, day in and day out on every network, because of the fact is it's not beneficial.
Yeah,
and it's a progressive media. The progressive media.
I don't even like associating that and using that word progressive, because it's regressive. It's authoritarian. And they're using social justice and identity politics to promote authoritarianism and corporatism, and this is what's kind of wound up happening, right? Which is unfortunate. It's really unfortunate that's happening.
What's wild though in the whole situation is the fact that it was allowed to be advertised the way it was. The algorithms were open. There was advertisement of the chaos. It inspired more people to go down and partake and be involved in the chaos a lot of times. And I think that there is people at times that were just nefarious adrenaline junkies, and they weren't even there because they even cared about George Floyd or the situation per se. But you get that in every movement. Like, you get that, it's just one of those things. And I think that
the establishment created a revolution to benefit the establishment.
Right.
That's what they did. They created it was the wrong revolution.
Right. It's wild. The government has, allowed it to happen. Okay, let me put some in context real quick. Chop and Chaz, right?
Yeah.
Do you guys remember when the Bundys took an empty federal building over?
I do kind of hear about that, yeah.
Somebody got shot, right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. But they got found innocent.
Yeah, they did, but they shot somebody.
Yeah.
Finicum. And you don't see them going in, the government going in there, setting up raids and stings and trying to arrest and shoot people at Chop and Chaz. They get treated completely different. It's like there's a completely different law for liberal activists and protesters than there is for conservative protesters, especially when it comes to court. There's people that shouldn't even be in jail on January 6th, whether you feel, that they should have been let go by now, and they're still there. They're just political prisoners. And it's dangerous because this is going to shift, and eventually you will get like a Ron DeSantis that becomes president, and then every BLM activist, every left-wing activist could face the same treatment, and nobody's going to fight for them because they didn't fight for basic freedom when they had a chance. Yeah, Joe Biden has been way more authoritarian towards the protests than Donald Trump ever was.
Yeah,
so it's wild. And even BLM has posted that on their, Twitter account. So, but it's interesting, man. I think that the future is going to have more of this, but it depends on it when election season comes around.
But do you think they're going to buy? Yeah, people are dumb. They'll buy the same race riot narrative.
Well, look at how quickly they forgot about COVID and all the bullshit our government pulled during COVID that was, completely unauthorized and should not have been allowed. People ratting on people for having 7 people at Thanksgiving, just wild,
crazy
they had
stuff.
All that.
Yeah,
forcing people to wear masks, tackling them for not wearing masks, just wild.
We didn't see that too much in America, though.
We saw that a lot off the beach.
We saw that in California, but in most of America, we didn't see that. You saw a lot of that in Europe.
There was some, though, and there's definitely news stories. They just got buried a lot of times.
Yeah.
But I think it happened more than people would like to think.
Yeah, but it also didn't happen. It also stopped happening pretty quickly.
Yeah, this is correct.
Which is good, and it makes you appreciate how great it is to live in America. And that, COVID and the response kind of made me realize how much I love America and how much we got to, preserve some of these American values, even though we have some flaws. You don't want to have European socialism, and this is why. Because they use COVID to create actual tyranny.
Yeah, it was our 2-year free trial of the New World Order, right? That's basically what we had there.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Although I don't think the propaganda is working as well. Like the Ukraine propaganda is not. No one's buying Ukraine propaganda because of COVID. Like, very few people are buying any of this propaganda.
Just the leftists.
No, but not even. Like, how many, like, most leftists are anti-war?
You know, I agree that they're anti-war, but they're anti-Russia invading Ukraine, so they're pro-Ukraine.
No. Those are like neoliberal. Those are like little Those are the neoliberals. It's different. Like the actual hardcore leftists that were protesting for BLM and doing what they were doing.
They'd be
on the street.
anti-war.
Yeah, they don't want to war either. Like there's totally unity.
I agree with that.
Like the far left protesters are actually on the same side that we're on with the war. Like I don't want it, and they don't want it either.
I was talking more about the neoliberals and even some of the.
It's like the MSNBC limousine liberal pundits. Yes. Those fucking people who have no skin or stake in the game. You know, it's like if you want to go to what people should do is you should find out who their kids are and show up in a military uniform and say, hey, you're gonna go fight. Come on, dude. Your dad wants. Your uncle thinks we should go to war. Why don't you fight, you pussy?
Right.
You know, just bully them into trying to fight.
If these politicians want war so bad, they can go start.
Come on, go fight. You go attack.
Lead by example.
Yeah, come on, dude. What are you waiting?
They would never. Then all of a sudden we wouldn't be in wars.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. I've always been anti-war. It's a bad game. You know, non-interventionalist. But
dude, we saw that.
Globalism is encroaching.
I literally met you at a World War III advocacy protest.
You know, essentially, I guess you could look at it like that. Pro-castration for children as young as 3, some people were saying.
Dude, that's also crazy because, like, people thought that you're like you know what this stuff is being designed to do, because people like us are pretty in the middle and we can get along with everybody, but these extreme measures are literally being designed to alienate us from one side of the political aisle to create more division. Right. That's all it's being done for, because like, dude, when it came to like BLM and the protests, I was real fair with how I spoke to everybody, right? You know? And even I went to reopening events and there were BLM protesters that tried to come and crash it, and a few of them were talking to me like, what do you think about this? And I'm like, dude, I drive a pedicab downtown. I got to make a living. Like, how does this have anything to do? Like, these lockdowns affect black people more than they affect white people. You should be protesting with us. Like, yeah. You know what I mean? Like, nobody's trying to like not include you. Like, you belong here. Like, you should protest with us. Like, this is going to affect you more because of the lack of investable assets you own, the inflation that's going to happen, the fact that 40% of black businesses don't exist, the fact that the people that are getting arrested and brutalized for not following these orders look like you and not like me. And there's one black dude that was part of the BLM movement was like, I actually like you, man. What you're saying makes a lot of sense, dude. And then I saw him again when that kid got shot, and he was like, oh, shit, good to see you, bro. So, you know...
well, you got to open the bridge, and there's a lot of people willing to meet in the middle.
And talk
bring people together. That's what we need to do. We need to have open, civil conversation. People don't know how to have civil conversations around difficult topics. So.
1,000%, dude, 1,000%, right? And you got to have those civil discussions. But, like, what I was going to say is that, when you have all of a sudden rallies to, like... When all of a sudden you have rallies to promote transgenderism amongst kids, which, dude, there's probably 1 or 2 kids that do feel that way, right? We talked about this when Rachel interviewed me. But the fact of the matter is the majority of kids shouldn't put hormones in their body, right? It doesn't mean you got to be mean to that kid.
Slow down here. Slow down. You're saying that, if your kid picks up a Barbie doll, you shouldn't get him a dress? Probably not. I picked up Barbie dolls just when I like girls. You know? Just saying.
Doesn't mean anything, right?
Doesn't mean anything.
But the point is, like, I don't think you should push that ideology onto kids, right? And then all of a sudden when you go and you criticize that and you show up at those protests, now those same far leftists that, like, were cool with you and you were able to actually, like, feel safe that you could freely report and talk to people objectively, now you lose public trust with people that you otherwise had public trust with. Right. That's dangerous. Right. That is very dangerous.
Well, and I think this is very predatory. I think being an adult and making those decisions when you're an adult, and the argument is that they got to get them with the blockers young because otherwise, there's...
Yeah, that's bullshit.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah, you know what? You know why that's bullshit?
I get angry when I talk about this.
You know why that's bullshit? Because
I want to
by the
punch
time...
you just because I...
Oh, stop. Dude, you know what, though? You know why that's bullshit? Because... by the time these kids get old enough to, like, get the surgery, the advancements in medicine will be so great that it wouldn't matter. Right. So that's a lie. That is literally that's a lie. That's a fake statement.
They're gonna remove.
That's a fake statement. And it is predatory when they do that stuff to kids.
But it also doesn't post-genderism.
Well, no. What it leads to is it leads to big pharma having lifetime customers. It leads to kids feeling isolated. It leads to a generation of people feeling confused about their identity even more so than they are now, and a generation that's raised to be confused about their own identity.
It's consumerism.
Well, it's a generation that's going to embrace fascism and Nazism and communism and all types of authoritarianism because they won't have a leg to stand on when it comes to who they are as people. That's why it's dangerous.
Well, that's how they've been educated.
Yes, exactly. That's why this stuff is dangerous. It's because, like, Dude, today, like the far left, it was, you notice how it was like far left leaning college kids or far left leaning young adults that were the most stringent about the COVID rules, and they were the ones that were most likely to call the cops for not wearing a mask or social distancing during COVID initially.
I believe it. They're the ones that want to get rid of the cops, and then they're
yeah. But that's not by accident. That happened because, you're raised with a mountain of debt. You're raised with no identity. You had participation trophies being given to you. There's no, there's an epidemic of kids being raised by single moms.
Feel entitled.
Right. There's all this shit that's happening, right? Entitled and also victim. Okay.
I gotta get what's mine.
Right. And so,
you got some comments?
I got a comment. Most, all androgenetic changes are reversible before 12 to 14. Okay, that's possible. Like I said, I don't even know that much about it.
Yeah, neither do I.
I don't really know too much about it. It just seems odd that, it just seems like giving hormones to kids should be the last.
But they were advocating for surgeries as young as 3. That's right.
Yeah. I think that type of stuff should literally be you gotta, I think, exhaust every possible option to avoid that happening respectfully and in a way that the kid doesn't feel bad before you even go down that route. And I'm worried that that's not going to happen, or I'm worried that we're deviating from that.
Yeah.
So that's my response to that. But what I'm saying though is when you have a generation of kids that don't know their own identities, because if you don't even know what gender you are, right, and you have teachers and activists that are deliberately trying to create confusion, that is a that is a different type of problem than a kid feeling trapped in the wrong body.
Right.
That's a much different type of problem. It's adults trying to weaponize that to make kids feel that way when they don't need to feel that way.
Right.
And so you get a generation of kids like that, you're more likely to not have an identity and be more willing to want somebody to tell you what to do.
I still think it all leads to post-genderism.
I think it leads to a lot of
transhumanist ideology that we can design babies without penises or vaginas, and if your child's not made in a petri dish, then it's a cancer to this earth because it'll spread disease.
Well, yeah, it's also a way to get people to not reproduce, get people to be in the metaverse, reduce the human
eugenics,
population.
yeah.
It's a form of it. It's eugenics light. All right. Anyway, Christian, we've been talking forever. How do I get a hold of you, dude?
Rundownlive.com. TheRundownLive.com. Find me a band.video. TheRundownLive.com. You got to search it. We don't have a cool site.
What's your Twitter? What's your Instagram? All this.
TheRundownLive.com. You can find us at Rundown Live or Kristan, Kristan, T. Harris on any platform, or show tips at TheRundownLive.com.
All right, dude, thank you so much, man. I love that we did this impromptu.
This guy's the man. Donate, support him.
Hell yeah.
Take a ride on his bike. This guy does a good job. Not every day you get a guy that pedals a bike and does, taxi cab confessionals. So
thanks, man. I appreciate it, dude. Thank you.
All right. Take care, bro, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely,
buy your shirts. Check out these shirts.
Oh, yeah, those are my pronouns. They're available in all 72 genders, except extra small because of bigotry. Thank y'all. All right. Okay, so wait, end now, right?
Yep.